So it is my pleasure to introduce the first plenary lecture, Professor Narahari Sastry, who is currently leading the SIR Northeast Institute of Science and Technology in India. And the title of his talk is The Status of the Computer-Aided Drug Design, Then, Now, and Future. So Sastry, welcome with your talk. Everybody is waiting and looking for. Please. We don't hear you. Sastry, we don't hear you. Microphone. Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you very much. Now you are able to hear me, right?
Sure.
A little bit more loud.
I'm trying to share my presentation.
Welcome.
Okay. Now you are able to
It's
see.
okay. It's okay.
Okay. So good morning to all of you. And first of all, I would like to thank Professor Vladimir Poraikov and all the members for inviting me and making me a part of this IV BSST conference, which is really very refreshing. In the last 2 days, I have been attending many of these talks. Today, I would like to reflect upon the status of computer-aided drug design, what was there in the past and now, and probably how it is going to go. So definitely, the outline is the evolution of drug discovery, and I will try to say a few things about the current computer-aided drug discovery and how disease and health can be looked at from a slightly different perspective, and the disease-specific web portals that are going on in our group, and the collaboration that we have with the Poraikos group also will be discussed, and some thoughts on how things may evolve. So if you look at the computer-aided drug design, first of all, we will have to look at the drug discovery. Drug discovery started where people try to get the natural products from organic chemistry. Then people try to synthesize these chemical compounds, and pharmacology, bacteriology has come. And the first generation, you have some alkaloids and organic products have been there from 19th century and the early part of 20th century. Then about the early part of the last century, the vaccines and analgesics have become very important. And then there are hormones, vitamins, there are different types of drugs which have come into picture. And we have the fourth and fifth generation drugs. I just wanted to go through these things a bit quickly so that this is just a cursory look at how things have evolved. Isolation of opium is probably one of the important steps in the drug discovery, because people are essentially looking at how do we alleviate the pain. And the opium and related compounds have played a very important role because when we look at the human health, they have a problem with pain or some accidents and the infections. So opium has played a very important role, and people have discovered the structures, and pioneering work was done from Russia by Mendeleev in terms of establishing the periodic table and also establishing the structures of the compounds. And development of chemoreceptors and dye industry has actually given rise to this concept of the photodynamic therapy. And then pharmacology and theory of receptors have evolved late 19th century or early 20th century. And people have access to synthetic drugs about 110 years before. And the most revolutionary discovery is the study of the discovery of antibiotics by Alexander Fleming. And different generations of these antibiotics, and the structure of DNA, developing quantitative structure-activity relationships and molecular cloning, recombinant technologies, monoclonal antibodies. And the first product of recombinant technologies, which was in 1982, has played a very important role, and the human insulin has been uh, available by people. And in 90s, molecular modeling and combinatorial chemistry have played a very important role because the computers have become more efficient, and people are trying to screen a large number of compounds, and the abilities of the medicinal chemists have also increased tremendously. And this molecular modeling and combinatorial chemistry have played a very important role in discovering drugs in general and pharmaceutical industry in particular. And isolation of human embryonic cells and human genome and the complete human genome have played a very important role in bringing the biologists at the forefront of the drug discovery. And as the data increases, it is the turn of the computer scientists who also played a very important role in the drug discovery. So earlier, it was more like a random approach. Now, drug discovery and computational drug discovery has been a very, very established field. So if you want to really put it in very simple terms, the target selection, target validation, lead discovery, lead optimization, preclinical trials and clinical trials, and then eventually getting an approval from a regulatory agency is the way in which the drug discovery is progressing. And when you look at this target identification and characterization, there are a number of techniques which are there, starting both experimental as well as the computational. Assay development, biochemical pathways, X-ray crystallography has played a very important role for protein structure prediction. Definitely molecular modeling and molecular dynamics and other approaches also have played a very important role. Then hit identification. There are a number of methods that are there. Again, both experimental and computation is playing a very important role. Then once you get a hit, you have to convert that into a lead and then optimize the lead. And once you optimize the lead compound, you will have to see how we can do the preclinical trials and then the clinical trials. But the most important thing is why a drug acts the way it acts. It's not very clear. Many of the drugs that were there in the market, and they also got the FDA approval, but the disease pathophysiology is poorly understood. It is not an exaggeration to say that more than 70 to 80% of the drugs act, but people do not know the precise mechanism with which it acts. So to understand the disease pathophysiology, one has to understand the metabolic pathways and what is the genes that are there, what are the targets, and how a whole range of molecular events that are taking place in the body. And this becomes an essentially a complex subject. I just wanted to tell you that the disease manifestation in any organism is inherently dependent on a number of factors, and unraveling the working strategy is the key. When you look at drug discovery, it looks very attractive, but one has to see that a large number of attempts will fail in the very early stages. And sometimes when you launch a product, and after launching the product during commercialization also, it can be a failure. But when there is a blockbuster drug, it will bring a lot of benefits. So if someone wants to do the drug discovery, it might be 10 or 15 years. It's just safe to say that it's an expensive, prolonged, and a very risky affair. But this is an essential thing, and then we cannot ignore just because it is expensive, just because it takes a lot of time, or just because it's risky. It has to be done. And this particular position will make a large number of smaller companies vulnerable. That's why there is a sort of a monopoly of the big giants in the pharmaceutical industry. I just wanted to, because the title of my talk is Computer-Aided Drug Discovery, what is there in the past, what is there current, and what is there in the future. I was very impressed to see this computer-aided drug discovery service market analyzed about 3-4 years before. The market landscape is highly fragmented with several new entrants, and majority of the companies offer structure-based drug discovery focused on early stage drug discovery. So the CAD services involve mainly lead optimization, hit to lead, hit generation, target validation, and target identification. And a large number of companies are evolving. And this is an estimate that how these companies will evolve when you go from now to 2030. So a very carefully conducted study revealed that there is a huge growth for CAD services from 2018 to 2030. This was a study that was done before the COVID, and I'm sure that the COVID also will definitely add more necessity to work on the CAD related affairs. So if you look at the distribution of these services, it is essentially in the North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. And I'm sure that the emerging markets are likely to grow at a faster rate, because now there is a lot of localization of the technical skill set that is required for many regions. And I'm sure that this CAD market is really very, very important. So if you want to really see the drug discovery or the drugs in a simple way, about a few decades before, if you identify a drug to cure a disease, that's fine, that's good. But currently, you not only identify a drug candidate, you have to improve its potency, selectivity, economics, and large number of factors have to be considered before you feel that this is a success. Probably in the future, in the near future, not so far future, the network pharmacology, machine learning methods to identify potential drug targets in small molecules, and this may be even be personalized. This is one way of looking at it. And if you look at the bottlenecks in drug discovery, the costs are increasing, the pace with which you are discovering drugs is also very, very not at a very desirable level. There are different types of challenges, and maybe there are some solutions for faster approval protocols for drug development, and rapid delivery of novel, affordable, and effective therapeutics are also play an important role. When we try to teach that some drugs will take about 10 to 15 years, when there is a need like COVID struck, then people are getting a drug within an year or two. Not only drugs, the vaccines, which will take even much more longer time, they are also being available. So one has to really keep their options open to see how the drug development is taking place. So if you look at the drug product profile and challenges, there are different types of challenges. Delivery route is a challenge, and most important challenge is if somebody is looking at a drug administration, if that individual is already predisposed with another disease, the drug-drug interactions, the differentiation from the current therapies, dosing frequencies, cost of the drugs, risk of misuse and controlled substances is becoming a very, very important area for law and order and other social issues. The side effects, safety in some selected populations such as pregnant or women or some other type of special categories, dose adjustments, and monitoring specialist use for different organ health has becoming very important. So let us now look at the drug development from a disease perspective to a different model, that a disease can be looked at as a perturbation for health. Probably the WHO definition is health is a complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. I think now, in addition to this physical, mental, and social, the emotional health is very much discussed, and also the spiritual health. Spiritual health means it's not from a religious context, it's how much of emotional and spiritual well-being of an individual is there, how enthusiastic they are, how curious they are to live, to solve problems, and that's also very important. So disease may be considered as a health plus some perturbation, and we should try to differentiate between the disease and sickness and illness and malady. It's very important to subject these things to mathematics. And when you want to do that, you have to look at health, aging, and disease relationships. The most important thing when I try to talk about the opium, the pain is still an unmet medical need. The modern medicine does not have an answer for pain because there are different ways in which this is manifested. So if you look at health, the physical health may be pain and the other is frailty. Somebody is weak, maybe for different reasons. It's very easy to determine the blood glucose or the pulse rate or the thyroid or vitamins or whatever it is. But sometimes the correlation between the pain, frailty is not very straightforward. Aging, inflammation, infection, immunity, and these are some of the things which may be related to physical, and there are mental health, there is also a social health. And if you try to look at the physical, mental, and social, we can try to look at the nutrition, the type of exercise that they have, the sleep, and alcohol and drug use and weight management. And it is possible for us to look at the lifestyle diseases, which is a very popular area, the genetic factors like congenital and genetic diseases, nutrient deficiency, neurodegenerative diseases, and infectious diseases. And also, aging appear to be very interestingly defined because we are all associate age with the chronological age, but the biological and psychological age are also becoming a very important factors. And one has to really take these things in a proper context and also quantify them. So if you look at the interaction between genes and the environment and their effect on health, we look at the population, age, physical health, mental health, environmental factors, and nutrition. These things probably will constitute of health. But the easiest question to ask is, are you healthy or not? And that's the most difficult to answer. And the problem that we have is, we are going to somebody to tell you whether you are healthy or not. One of my good friends who has a very high award in India tells that he's a medical doctor and heading an institute. Health is a very personal thing to every individual. We should not outsource our health to somebody else, and definitely not to the doctor. So what I mean to say is, health is a completely a personalized thing, and then one has to really look at various factors for that particular individual, because every individual is different. So what are the genetic determinants, the immunity, inflammation, and there are different factors which are associated with this. And probably we also have to see that some things, some parameters, the anthropometric parameters and biochemical parameters are not very well understood by people, and the indiscriminate use of the so-called knowledge that one gets due to this medical sciences will lead to treatments which are not scientific. I don't want to make very controversial statements, but it is safe to say that the type of treatment that we have with cholesterol has caused a lot of damage to human health than it helped. So we also have to look at the factors which are connecting rare diseases, metabolic disorders, lifestyle diseases, and infectious diseases. And all of them can be subjected to high quality science, especially when you are able to use mathematical models, artificial intelligence, and machine learning approaches, because when you have more and more data, we should have more and more powerful tools to get some knowledge out of that. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit of our work in the next 10 minutes or so. Most of the time, chemists have led this drug discovery. And when a chemist discovers a molecule or synthesizes a molecule, probably this molecule has come for the first time, and they will be curious about to know what are the properties that this molecule display. And I feel that most of the time, how much time I have, Vladimir?
10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. I will try to complete. So we would like to see what are the properties that we have. So an idea was conceived in 2004, and then it took a lot of time, and we try to look at the molecular property diagnostic suite, which is a disease-specific web portal that has been put. And I will try to tell you that this is a web portal which is created to look at all the computational methods that can be applied to a given disease. This is just an idea. And we try to look at different modules like data library, data processing, data analysis, and some advanced modules that are there. And it was put on the Galaxy platform. Oh. And when I try to look at it, I have seen this fantastic paper by our Vladimir Pareiko's group, the prediction of activity spectra for biologically active substances. Because many people, when they synthesize a molecule, they would like to look at the biologically active substances. The prediction of active spectra of substances is a brilliant idea where it has started about 22 years before, and now it is taking a very good shape. And I'm very happy that I was able to be in touch with them, and then we got a project, a knowledge-based approach for drug repurposing for socially important rare diseases. And we also have connected our MPDS with the way to drug, and the integrated platform was developed. And I just wanted to go a little bit faster, that in India, instilling the mindset to write and develop softwares is very important. And we got also motivated to work with some of the people. And we have been trying to develop this software. And the software business currently that is going on, that people try to make money by selling the software, may not be a very viable approach. So I believe that open source software where people can contribute to the knowledge, and they can sell the knowledge, but they cannot sell just a particular tool, because if the tools are not widely used, they are not very effective. So we have an approach where the molecular property diagnostic suite will be a disease-specific web portal which will be able to solve the problems in a particular disease space using a range of computational methods. So this is how we are trying to use. And we published this paper with the Indian group in 2017. Then when I am in touch with Vladimir Pareiko and his group, we are able to publish this in Mycobacterium tuberculosis was published, and diabetes mellitus. And then currently we are working, and hopefully within a next couple of years, 50% of my group members are working on developing this molecular property diagnostic suite, and this will be available. I just wanted to tell you that we talk about modern science and scientific wisdom, but 5,000 years of knowledge also has to be considered and integrated with the 100 years of modern science. Ethnopharmacology and linking health, nutrition, and traditional practices are also very important. Or can we gain by looking back in the not so recent past, maybe a few centuries of human existence? Because the type of things that we are talking about, the circadian clock and many other factors that are coming out, have probably some roots in some of the traditions. Sustainability and asking the right questions is very important. And I think we have to see the difference between doing things correctly versus doing correct things. Doing correct things means asking the right questions, because we should not become the slaves of our regulatory and then try to do the practices. The creative thinking is getting lost sometimes in the guise of this modern science. I'm definitely trying to say that modeling computational is essential to design novel molecules for unmet needs. And this modeling will be very important in a range of topics that are there. I'm trying to purposely taking topics from metallurgy to material science to agriculture to nanotechnology to other properties. And if you look at our understanding, what contributes to better comprehension in understanding and analyzing the computational drug discovery results? We just have an input and an output. Mostly, we just wanted to know whether it is active or not active, or whether it is a good drug or not good drug, or you have an input and you have several outputs and then you try to collate. I think the second approach may be important because computation is inherently having its limitations. Because reality can only be measured to the limit derived by Heisenberg, even if you take the smallest of the small systems. Hydrogen atom can be solved, but hydrogen atom in a magnetic field or in an environment, you cannot solve with Schrodinger wave equation. So we attempt to model the reality of an analog world with digital computers. So whatever we do, the depicting this epistemological thing will not corroborate with the ontological idealism. So in other words, models, however honest, will always be approximate. Having said that, the innate motivation of any model has been to mimic the objective reality as closely as it can be perceived. I just wanted to say that this computer-aided drug discovery, how disease, identifying the cause based on pain and symptoms to treat the disease was in the past. That is need-based. We have a problem and we want to get the solutions. So that's how the disease-guided approaches have made to discover drugs. Currently, we are trying to diagnose with modern testing facilities to find what is the problem. This is logic-based. Now, people do not know whether they are healthy or not, because about a few centuries before, or even decades before, people know that they are not healthy. That's why they go to a person and they will give a medicine. But now people do not know whether they are healthy or not. They go to a clinic or something and they find out whether they are healthy or not, and based on some logic, and then they will get a medicine. I think in the future, we should concentrate more on health, personalized health, focusing more on that rather than disease symptoms and other approaches. So we should probably constantly monitor and maintain. It's like a car maintenance. You have to also maintain your body, and that may be the future. I like this statement that the model is good, and the trick is to see where it is right. So with this, I think I am coming to an end. This is all possible because a large number of people are working in Jorhat lab. I shifted from Hyderabad to Jorhat about 3.5 years before, and I thank you very much for your patient hearing, and I will be happy to take any questions. Can I stop sharing?
Thank you very much, Sastry, for a wonderful talk. We have a couple of questions. Do you have an open database of drug-like existing on the cell of compounds in India for screening at the initial stage of drug discovery?
In India, I did not get the question. Can you repeat? It's there in the. Do you have an open database of drug-like existing on the compounds in India for screening the initiative? Yes, we have. Even these are sort of published data sets are available.
1 minute.
Things, and then these are available. At the initial stage of drug discovery, we can use a large number of filters. And now we are trying to develop some filters for toxicity. And one of the work that we are currently doing is to look at the possibility of failure of these candidates at the clinical trials. So a number of tools are being developed to do this. Yes, for the first part of the question, these data sets are available. They are also published.
Okay, thank you once again.